How about them Brownies? Cleveland taking home not one, not two, not three, but 4 awards from the 2024 NFL Honors. So we're going to break it all down, kind of recap everything that went down in Las Vegas tonight. But let's just kind of start off with by saying, what a night for Cleveland, right? I mean, the Browns, who, let's just call it what it is, have not had a whole lot of hardware to place on their mantle for a couple of decades, sweep essentially the NFL Honors, and the Cavs won. So just a great night in Cleveland altogether. But let's go in order of the awards, starting with Jim Schwartz, who won Assistant Coach of the Year, and there was no one more deserving than Coach Schwartz. He took over a defensive unit that was left with just a lot of misdirection and confusion from the previous DC Joe Woods, lack of communication, plenty of talent, but it just didn't feel like it had a shepherd. It just didn't feel like it had a direction or a leader. Jim Schwartz comes in and in 1 year gets them to be the #1 defense for yards allowed, has them firing all year long, and despite the team going through 5 different starting quarterbacks, they won 11 games and finished with the 5 seed in the AFC. They didn't get to the 5 seed because of those 5 quarterbacks. They got there because of what this defense did all year long. So give credit to Coach Schwartz, an incredible job. All right, the next winner we had was Myles Garrett. And you know Steelers fans are pissed, and I love it. Maybe for the simple-minded, they can't understand that you can actually evaluate players more than just sacks. Like, I don't know, when Myles Garrett walks along the defensive line and the Tennessee Titans have 2 players devoted to just shadowing Garrett, and they have to burn a timeout because the play clock's winding down. That's the kind of stuff that you know he's a game wrecker. He is someone that the offense has to have long meetings about leading up to Sunday going, how are we going to limit Myles Garrett? How are we going to just control the bleeding? Because what he does on the football field, no one else can do. And I bet if you got all 32 GMs in a room and said, hey, we are redrafting all the players, Myles Garrett is the first defensive player to go. And that says everything you need to know. And if that's not good enough for you, how about Micah Parsons, who finished 3rd in voting, by the way, campaigning for Garrett an hour before the award ceremony? Myles Garrett, well earned, and congratulations on your first Defensive Player of the Year. All right, next up, we've got Kevin Stefanski, who took home his 2nd Coach of the Year award. He is now one of 13 coaches who have won multiple Coach of the Year awards. So anytime you're in the same category as something like Bill Belichick did, you're doing something right. And the funny thing is it's crazy how Browns fans were at each other's throats a few months ago about whether or not Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. And yes, winning Coach of the Year, I don't think absolutely solidifies you as a all-star coach. I mean, you can go look at some previous winners and they haven't had great track records after winning, but man, they didn't go through 5 different starting quarterbacks, right? They didn't go through a quarter of their team being on injured reserve. They did not have to deal with all of that. There are a lot of teams every single year who just get a little bit unlucky, get snake bitten, get the injury bug. Kind of rotates. Some teams more unlucky than others, but it does happen. And when it happens, that's kind of it for those teams. They go, all right, it's just not our year, right? The Bengals, good example, like lost Joe Burrow, made a good effort, came up short. Just wasn't their year. Kevin Stefanski was not taking that as an answer. No, didn't matter when Nick Chubb went down. Didn't matter when he lost his starting left tackle, right tackle, and his backup right tackle. Didn't matter when Deshaun Watson went down. The season kept going, and they just kept winning games. So congrats, Kevin Stefanski. I mean, by far, DeMeco Ryans was definitely a very well-deserving candidate, and it was actually super close. It came down to 1 first-place vote going to Kevin Stefanski over DeMeco, who did an outstanding job in Houston. But obviously, I'm going to pull for Stefanski. So if you are on the fence about whether or not the Browns got the right head coach in their place. I mean, you go back to a year ago and everyone was saying Kevin Stefanski isn't a leader, right? He can't get the locker room. He's just an X's and O's guy. Does an X's and O's guy get their team to stay locked in all year long despite all the injuries they sustained? That doesn't sound like something a nerd would do. That sounds like something a lion would do. Congrats, Stefanski. And then finally, the most recent or the final award winner was Joe Flacco, who won Comeback Player of the Year. Now, personally, I think there were a lot of good candidates. This will sound a bit morbid, but I'm kind of happy that happy's not the right word, but Damar Hamlin should not have won the award. Like the guy didn't play at all this year, and I think the Comeback Player of the Year should be someone that produces on the field. That's not going to be a popular opinion for some, but whatever. I thought Baker Mayfield was very well deserving of it. Like where he was last year to where he got the Bucs this year, winning a playoff game. Like give a lot of credit to Baker. His career could not have been at a lower point. Got a cheap contract in Tampa, and then took him pretty far. But like they had some ups and downs. They won 9 games. Browns won 11 games. But now I'm getting off track here. Let's talk about Joe Flacco, who threw 13 touchdowns, coming off the couch, and a quarterback that everyone thought was just going to maybe back up DTR for a minute, and if he did come in the game, just hand the ball off to Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, maybe throw a couple of slants to Amari Cooper, and just pray to God that your defense can win you games. That could not have been further from the truth. Joe Flacco went in there and was like, we're going back about 2 decades, and I am throwing the piss out of this football, and we're going to spray it all over the field. I mean, the Browns' aerial attack with Joe Flacco, you could argue that stretch was his best stretch of his regular season career. I'm sure someone else can find a better number-wise, but like what the parameters were, coming off the couch, getting to know guys in the locker room, immersing yourself in that group. I mean, what Joe was able to do was truly extraordinary, and I'm very excited and very happy for Flacco to take home Comeback Player of the Year. So congrats to all the Browns players and coaches who aided and assisted the 4 winners, Jim Schwartz, Myles Garrett, Kevin Stefanski, and Joe Flacco. And I'll leave you guys with this. How can you not be excited about the direction the Browns are headed, right? I don't want to get caught up and swept up in this hardware too much because, as Myles Garrett said at the end of his speech, there's more of this coming and it's something a little bit better. And the ultimate goal is to bring home hardware on Sunday of this week, not Thursday, but it really feels like the right people are in Berea. The building blocks, the cornerstone pieces are there. And now it's just about putting it together for one magical run. So you got to be excited about where the Browns are headed because they've got a good head on their shoulders. And that was not the case for year after year after year. But I think things are changing.